Happy Monday. Thank you for joining me for this week's Weekly Wisdom. Now, this week is all in continuation to what makes the magic work at Walt Disney World. And so last week, we talked all about defining behaviors so that your employees understand how do they live into your purpose. Now, this week, we're going to talk about interviewing. You see, when we were working at Disney, we were looking for very specific behaviors and traits that could help show up before the cast member ever became a cast member. So many times, especially when we're thinking about high turnover industries, retail, food and beverage, anything in hospitality, we're just honestly, sometimes we just need warm bodies. We need people to be able to do the job. But if we can be intentional and spend more time hiring the right people, then we spend less time having to deal with the turnover and the costs and the training. So this is all the way from your top leadership down to the front lines. And so when you're thinking about hiring, let's talk 3 specific tips to ensure that you're hiring the right people. Now, that first tip is when you're asking the interview questions. Yes, you need to have those consistent, every single interview questions about technical skills and things such as that. But we also want to talk interview questions for purpose. So when somebody would come in for Disney, I didn't have the privilege of hiring. That was for the casting center. But it was part of my responsibility as a leader. We had 90 days to ensure a good fit. And so I had 90 days to see, is this going to work out? And so the questions that I would ask the cast members when they would first come in is, what are some things you look for if you're wanting to create magic? You see, you have to believe in magic to work at Walt Disney World. Maybe not pulling a rabbit out of a hat, but the magic that happens when one person interacts with another person who they've never met, and in that moment, something magical happens. Ask the question, do you believe in magic? So we had very specific conversations that we would have with our cast members, so we would be able to understand whether they would be a good fit. It also happens because, as leaders, we are recruiting all of the time. So I would ask these questions with people that delivered amazing service while I was at a restaurant that wasn't Disney or while I was shopping. So keep that in mind. What is the purpose of your organization? And then in what ways can you check to ensure that the people that you hire are aligned with that purpose? The second thing is to set up experiences. So after I left Walt Disney World, I worked at a nursing home. And while there, we were really looking for certified nursing assistants, CNAs, that had teamwork abilities, that they were able to work independently, but they were also able to work with each other. And so one of the suggestions that came out is to take potential CNAs on a tour with another CNA. And at a specific point, something would get knocked over. And the goal is to see if the person being interviewed would stop and assist or would keep going. We wanted those people that would see the problem and stop and assist. So that first one is to ask questions during the interview process that allows us to ensure that they align with the purpose. The second tip is in those situations where you have some flexibility, create those moments that let you see how a person is going to show up. Now, I want to be very clear here. You're not being inauthentic. You're not trying to catch somebody doing something. You are just observing to see natural behaviors and how they will line up with your current team and your current purpose. How many times can we say purpose in one video? And then the final piece is, speaking of your team, when you're interviewing, if you are leading a team of individuals, not just one person, but a team of individuals, think about the strengths on your team. Think about your strengths. Think about your opportunities. We have bias as humans. It is not right or wrong. It simply is. So knowing that we have a bias, we're more likely to hire people that are like us, which means that you're going to have a lot of people that have similar strengths. So when you're interviewing, when you're having conversations, look for those individuals that kind of fill in those skills gaps. I am not a warm and fuzzy individual. That is never my strength. And so I needed to have people around me that were warm and fuzzy, that kept a pulse on my teams, that could come in and let me know when something was a little off because I couldn't pick it up naturally. So the third and final tip is make sure that you have a well-balanced team. When you're hiring, you're not just hiring for a position, you're hiring for a spot with a group of individuals. And when you can pull those pieces together, you have a much higher chance of success when a new person comes into your organization, that they're going to stick around. After all, isn't that what we want? We want our people to come in, love it, and stick around. All right, so this is week 2 of peeling back the curtains and looking behind the Disney magic. Thank you for watching this week's Weekly Wisdom. Have an absolutely amazing week, and I will talk to you next week. As always, don't forget, you got this.